"What the hell are you doing? You think this is a joke?" The voice blasted from behind a cubicle wall as Yalen Tate froze mid-sentence, still holding the headset in his hand. He wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. 3 days ago, he made the decision in his corner office on the 26th floor. His father's call center business, inherited 5 years ago, had grown to 10 locations across 3 states. Profitable, yes, but recently, customer complaints were stacking up. Long wait times, rude staff, missed follow-ups. He'd had enough of hearing excuses from managers telling him it's just a hiring season slump. Yalen wanted the truth. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair a dull brown, and swapped his tailored suits for wrinkled khakis and a logo polo. He created a fake resume, got hired through the company's third-party recruiter as Illy, and got assigned to the Westbridge call center, one of the busiest and supposedly best-run locations. He'd never met anyone at this branch. The last time he visited a site in person was 2 years ago for a ribbon cutting. That distance made it easy to stay hidden. No one here had met the CEO. Now, 2 days into his training, he found himself sitting in the far corner of a windowless floor with 13 other new hires. The room buzzed with calls. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, but all of that noise faded the second that shout echoed again. "I said read the damn script, Paisley. You don't ad-lib. This isn't open mic night." Yalen stood slowly. He peeked around the cubicle wall. A young woman, maybe early 20s, with curly auburn hair and trembling hands sat at her desk, headset still on. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak to a customer, eyes darting toward the man pacing in front of her. That man was Reed, floor supervisor. Big guy, loud voice. Tight polo stretched across his chest. He jabbed a finger at her screen. "I swear, if I hear you go off script again, you're out. You think I didn't notice yesterday? You think I'm stupid?" Paisley whispered something back, but it was drowned out by the buzzing phones. Yalen clenched his jaw. He turned back toward his own desk, sat down, and stared at the computer screen. For the next 2 hours, he barely heard a word of the training module playing in his headset. At lunch, he carried his tray to the corner of the break room and sat alone. Across the room, Paisley sat with a quiet guy who hadn't spoken much since training began. She looked shaken. She picked at her food but didn't eat. "Hey, you okay?" Yalen asked, walking over. She blinked, a little startled. "Oh, yeah, just a lot to take in." He sat next to her. "Reed kind of went off on you back there." She hesitated. "That's just how he is. He yells. A lot." The guy next to her, Tim, if Yalen remembered right, added, "He's been like that since day one. Nobody says anything 'cause he's tight with the district manager." Yalen nodded slowly. "You guys ever report it?" Paisley gave a sad laugh. "To who? HR. They're not around, and management's all buddy-buddy. People who complain don't last long." The words settled in his chest like rocks. That night back in his hotel room, Yalen sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his temples. Maybe this was a one-time thing. Maybe Reed was having a bad day. But the next morning proved worse. Training moved into live call simulations. Reed stood behind the trainees, arms crossed, barking instructions like a drill sergeant. When one girl, Maddie, forgot to confirm a customer's email, he slammed his hand on her desk. "Wrong, start over. We do it right or we don't do it at all." Yalen couldn't take it anymore. He walked straight into the men's room and stared at himself in the mirror, the fake name badge. The dyed hair. He looked nothing like the man in the company's annual reports, but inside he felt like a fraud. He thought he was building a company that treated people better than this. He thought wrong. He splashed cold water on his face, dried his hands, and walked back out. As he re-entered the floor, he caught Reed standing over another trainee, this time a young guy who had clearly messed up a call. "You think mumbling is gonna get you anywhere?" Reed snapped. "You sound like a damn ghost. Speak up or get out." The trainee looked like he was about to cry. That was it. Yalen walked straight past his desk and toward Reed. "Hey," he said, "you got a minute?" Reed turned, annoyed. "Yeah, what do you want?" Yalen glanced around. "Let's talk in the break room." "About what?" "About the way you're treating people." Reed blinked, then laughed. Bro, you're in training. You don't tell me how to do my job. Not yet, Yalen said quietly, but I think you should come with me anyway. Reed folded his arms. Nah, I got a floor to run. Go finish your module. Yalen stared at him for a long moment. He turned and walked away. But not to his desk. He walked straight to the small office in the back where the assistant manager sat. I need to speak with you, he said. Privately, it's important. The assistant manager, a young woman named Dana, looked up from her screen. Sure. He closed the door behind him and took off his name badge. My name isn't Ali, he said. It's Yalen Tate. I own this company and we have a problem. Dana's eyes didn't move for several seconds. She stared at the man standing in front of her, then down at his badge on the desk. Her fingers hovered over her keyboard as if she wasn't sure whether to call someone or shut the screen off. You're saying, you're Mr. Tate? She asked, her voice flat but cautious. Yalen nodded once. I am. She sat back slowly in her chair, closing the spreadsheet she'd been working on. The silence between them was tight, not tense exactly, more like a held breath. He didn't wait for her to ask more. I came in through the third-party recruiter 3 days ago under a fake name. I've been in training with the new hires. I've seen how Reed runs the floor. Dana's shoulders dropped slightly. You saw the way he talks to trainees. I saw him humiliate 3 people in front of the room. I saw him threaten to fire someone over a minor mistake. I saw fear on the floor, not structure. Her lips parted, but instead of a response, she exhaled and rubbed her temples. I'm not surprised, she said finally, but I didn't think it would get this far. I've reported things to district twice. They always ask for documentation. Have you ever had direct authority to discipline him? Dana shook her head. He was hired before me. I've only been assistant manager here for 9 months. He's tight with Max. Yalen's jaw flexed. Max was the district manager overseeing 5 branches. He'd been with the company since before Yalen inherited it. Charismatic, overconfident, and clearly blind to what was happening under him. Where is Max today? He's supposed to be here tomorrow for a metrics review. Yalen stood. Don't tell anyone I'm here yet. I need 1 more day. Dana hesitated. You're staying undercover until tomorrow morning. I need to see how Reed behaves when he doesn't think anyone's watching. He left the office with a nod, leaving Dana alone with the closed door and a million unspoken questions. Back on the floor, the energy hadn't shifted. Reed paced the aisles like a watchdog, hovering over shoulders, correcting people mid-call, scribbling notes onto clipboards that no one ever seemed to see twice. Midway through the afternoon, a customer call escalated. One of the newer hires, Clara, quiet but competent, accidentally transferred someone to the wrong department. The line disconnected. She tried to call the customer back, but they didn't answer. Reed walked up behind her and yanked the headset off her ears. Are you even listening during training? Did you not hear the part about double-checking transfer paths? Clara opened her mouth, but her lips just quivered. She didn't respond. Do you think we're here to babysit you? His voice wasn't loud, it was sharp, thin, like a wire stretched too tight. Yalen stepped closer. Reed, he said evenly, you're going to want to stop. Reed turned slowly. What did you just say? You're going to stop talking to her like that, right now. Reed tilted his head. You're the trainee who's been sitting on Module 6 for 2 days. You don't get to tell me anything. Yalen didn't blink. Then maybe I should introduce myself properly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his actual badge, silver-edged, with his name and photo. Reed stared at it for a second too long, then laughed once, short and confused. You're joking. Not even a little. The silence that followed was absolute. Clara had gone pale. Several other employees nearby lowered their headsets just enough to listen. I came here to find out why our customer satisfaction scores in this region are falling. I didn't expect to find someone in a leadership position belittling people in front of the entire floor. Hold on, Reed said, lifting his hands. You're not seeing the big picture here. These people need pressure. You go soft on them, they crumble. They're not supposed to be under pressure. They're supposed to be learning, and no one learns under public humiliation. Reed opened his mouth again, but Yalen cut him off. You're relieved of duty. Immediately, gather your things. HR will follow up with you by end of day. What? You're firing me? Yes. Reed stared at him, disbelief curdling into something harder, but he didn't argue further. He stormed past the rows of cubicles, yanked open the break room door, and disappeared inside. Yalen turned to Clara. You're okay, he said gently. You did nothing wrong. Thank you for staying calm. She nodded once, eyes still wide, and slowly put her headset back on. Dana emerged from the back office soon after, holding a clipboard. I'll escort him out, she said quietly. You want to talk to the team? Yalen looked around. Some heads were down, others still watching. The floor was on edge. He stepped up onto the small riser near the main desks where Reed usually made announcements. My name is Yalen Tate, he said, clear enough for everyone to hear. I'm the owner of this company. I've been working alongside you the last few days because I needed to understand why things were slipping. What I saw today confirmed what some of you have probably felt for a long time. That ends now. No one moved. But something in the room shifted, not relief, not yet, but something closer to the first exhale after holding your breath too long. I'm not here to wave a magic wand. I know some of you are juggling back-to-back calls, understaffed shifts, and unclear expectations. That's going to change. Starting today, we're going to look at everything scheduling, management, support, and we're going to fix what's broken. He stepped down. I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, if anyone has something they've been afraid to say, now's the time. He left the floor without another word. Dana followed him back into her office. Thank you, she said. I'm not done yet, he replied. I want to meet the people who make this place work, not just the ones who shout the loudest. That evening he stayed late, not in the office but in the parking lot waiting. At 6:30, as the second shift ended, a woman in her 50s walked out the front door, clutching 2 tote bags and a stack of printouts. Her walk was steady but slow. Yalen approached her. Evening, he said. I'm Yalen. She paused, then raised an eyebrow. You're the guy who fired Reed. He nodded. She gave a short laugh. About time. What's your name? Delia. Been here 6 years. I do training and night shift onboarding, and about 3 people's jobs if we're being honest. Mind talking for a few minutes, she glanced at the time. As long as I don't miss my bus. They sat on the bench near the sidewalk. Delia didn't hold back. We've been short-staffed since last winter. People quit. No one replaces them. Reed decided the answer was to double everyone's call load. Meanwhile, he'd spend half his day in the break room watching sports clips. Did Max know? If he didn't, it's because he didn't want to. What keeps you here? Delia looked at him. Not the pay, not the hours, but some of the kids who come through, they just need someone to believe in them. If I quit, they'd drown even faster. Yalen sat back. The weight of her words hit harder than anything he'd read in a district report. Would you be open to stepping into a formal training leadership role? He asked. With authority, real support, a raise. She blinked. What? I'm serious. The way you talk about your team, it's what leadership should sound like. Delia looked at him for a long time, then nodded once. I'd be honored. Yalen stood. I'll see you in the morning. He watched her walk toward the bus stop, then pulled out his phone and started typing a message. Not to Max. Not yet. To the head of HR tomorrow, the real work would begin. The next morning, the air inside the Westbridge Center carried the weight of anticipation. Word had spread, not just about Reed being removed, but about who had done it. Yalen's cover was gone. Now, he was simply the man whose name was on the paycheck, and he'd just walked through the front doors like any other employee. Some employees kept their heads down, unsure of what kind of leader he really was. Others watched him closely, curious or cautious. There were no greetings, no applause, no fawning, just quiet calculation. That suited him fine. Trust wouldn't be given, he'd have to earn it. Delia was already at her desk, organizing training materials into labeled folders. She looked up as he passed by and gave a small nod, nothing performative, just acknowledgement. He returned it and continued on toward the small conference room at the back, where the district manager was waiting. Max looked exactly as Yalen remembered: pressed shirt, perfect tie knot, tablet in hand. When Yalen stepped inside, Max stood, smiling like he was welcoming a client to a golf course. "Wasn't expecting to see you here in person," Max said. "I didn't announce it," Yalen replied, closing the door behind him. "Didn't want a staged performance." Max chuckled. "Guess I should have worn a different tie then." "I'm not here to talk about your tie." Max's smile wavered. "All right, let's get into it." Yalen remained standing. "How long have you been getting reports about Reed's behavior?" Max blinked. "We've had a few notes, nothing that suggested serious misconduct. Dana's sent a couple of memos, but she didn't provide full documentation." "You think that's a valid excuse to do nothing?" "I didn't say that. You didn't do anything." "That's the problem." Max lowered himself into the chair slowly. "Look, I've got 5 branches under me. I rely on my supervisors to manage day to day. Reed hit his targets. Call volume, retention, even efficiency scores. His efficiency scores were inflated. He was marking callbacks complete even when no follow-up happened. I saw it myself." Max shut his mouth for a second. "You're telling me he falsified performance metrics?" "I'm telling you he created an environment where people were too afraid to ask questions, and it made them fail. They weren't trained properly, they were surviving." Max stared at the table. "I didn't know it was that bad." "You didn't want to know." Yalen stepped forward, setting a brown folder in front of him. "These are internal call logs from the last 60 days. I pulled them last night with its help. There are patterns. Drops in average call quality every time Reed was in charge, spikes in customer complaints tied to his shift. You should have caught it." Max didn't look up. "What do you want me to do? Take responsibility?" Max's expression shifted. "You're saying I should resign." "I'm saying you need to decide whether you're willing to rebuild trust, not with me, with them." Max leaned back, eyes narrowing. "And if I said I'm willing, then you start today. You sit with the team, you listen. You don't give orders, you don't defend yourself. You learn." Max picked up the folder, thumbing through the pages. "All right." Yalen nodded once. "I'll assign someone to oversee your transition, but this is your last chance to get it right." He left Max seated in silence and headed back to the floor. Dana intercepted him near the print station. "Got a minute? Go ahead." "I've been reviewing the trainer applications over the last year. Out of the 27 people who applied for advancement from floor roles, only 2 were interviewed. Let me guess, Reed made the decisions, mostly. And Max rubber stamped them." "Who didn't get considered?" Dana handed him a sheet. "These 6 were qualified. Some had over a year of experience, perfect attendance, and strong QA scores. They were passed over for people Reed liked personally." Yalen scanned the list. One name stood out: Tim Rowley. He waved Dana to follow and crossed the floor toward Tim's desk. The young man was in mid-call, headset on, eyes flicking between the screen and his notes. His tone was calm, practiced, not robotic, not over-rehearsed. When the call ended, he turned, slightly startled to find both of them standing there. "Can we talk for a minute?" Yalen asked. Tim stood immediately. "Sure." They moved to the side hall near the supply closet, away from the noise. "You applied for a trainer role last fall," Yalen said. Tim nodded. "Yeah, you weren't interviewed." He nodded again, slower this time. "Why do you think that was?" Tim looked toward the windowless wall. "I didn't go to lunch with Reed. I didn't laugh at his jokes. I just did my job." "You still want that role?" Tim hesitated, then nodded. "I think I'd be good at it. I've been helping new hires on the side anyway. Paisley, Clara, even Maddie, they come to me when Reed got too aggressive." Yalen glanced at Dana. She gave a quiet nod. "Congratulations," Yalen said. "You're being promoted, effective immediately. We'll work out the formal track, but your responsibilities start today. You'll report directly to Dana and Delia." Tim blinked. "Wait, really? Really? We'll adjust your workload to give you time for peer mentoring, and we'll get you shadowing Delia this week." Tim stood a little straighter. Not proud, not yet, but ready. After Tim returned to his desk, Yalen turned to Dana. "Let's talk about the rest of the team. Who else is carrying more than they should?" Dana pulled out her tablet. Start with Maddie. She's been running point on 3 call queues because we've been short-staffed. Never complains, but she's staying late almost every day. Does she have backup? Only on paper. Most of her team rotates out every 2 weeks. They can't keep up. All right, pull her off 1 queue. Reassign overflow to Max. He's shadowing today. Let's see if he still remembers how to work a headset. Dana didn't smile, but her eyes flickered with something close to satisfaction. By mid-afternoon, the ripple effects had begun. Maddie was moved to a quieter desk. Tim was walking Clara through a revised call structure. And Max was seated in the far corner, headset on, trying to navigate a billing dispute while Delia watched without expression. Yalen stopped by Delia's desk. "How's he doing?" "He's sweating." "Good, let him." She tapped her pen against a notepad. "You're not just here to fix this branch, are you?" "No, you going undercover at the others, already lined up." Delia leaned back slightly. "You're going to burn a lot of shoes doing that. I've got replacements." She nodded once and went back to her notes. Before leaving for the day, Yalen pulled Dana aside again. "Tomorrow, I want to bring in HR, not just for Reed's case. I want an open session. Anyone who wants to speak can, private or not. No retaliation, no scripts. I'll arrange it. And Dana," he added, "you've been holding this place together longer than I realized. That's going to be reflected in your title and your pay." She didn't react immediately. She just said, "Took you long enough," and then she walked away. That night, back at the hotel, Yalen opened his laptop. He started drafting a new internal policy, one that would require quarterly anonymous feedback from all employees, reviewed by a committee that included at least one non-management rep from each branch. He wasn't going to let this happen again, not here, not anywhere. The following morning, a low fog hung over the Westbridge parking lot, casting a pale sheen over the pavement as the first shift trickled in. Inside, the office lights flickered on one by one, and for the first time in weeks, the energy on the floor didn't feel suffocating, just quiet. Alert. Yalen arrived just after 7. He wasn't wearing a disguise anymore, no more faded polos or khakis, but he still chose dark jeans and a plain collared shirt. He didn't want reverence. He wanted focus. Dana met him near the front desk, already holding a clipboard and a printed schedule. "HR's here," she said. They set up in the conference room, private one-on-one sessions, voluntary, no time limits. "We've already had 4 sign-ups." He scanned the list. "Voluntary's good, word will spread if it's handled right." "I told them to send someone neutral. They brought in someone from the Dallas branch. Never worked with Max or Reed. She's sharp." "Perfect. Let's keep it quiet and steady. No pressure." She moved on without adding anything unnecessary. That he appreciated. Yalen made his way to the far end of the floor where Delia and Tim were setting up for the revised training block. The chairs had been rearranged into a U-shape, not rows, more eye contact, less hierarchy. The whiteboard had new sections: active listening, escalation without panic, and customer empathy. "Morning," Yalen said. Tim looked up. "We're starting with role reversals today. Letting the new hires pretend they're the customer forces the reps to see how tone changes everything." Delia was reviewing a printout. "We had to adjust the script. The old one was built to rush calls, not resolve them. Any pushback? Not yet. But I expect it once the pace slows and call volume ticks up. Some of the old-timers might think we're coddling. Let them think it. Results will speak louder." Delia nodded once. "We'll track retention and resolution rates. That's your ammo." Yalen stayed for the first session. Paisley, who had barely spoken during her first 2 days, now stood in front of the group, playing the role of a frustrated customer. Her voice carried more confidence than it had before, and when Maddie responded, she didn't rush to solve. She listened first. After the session, Yalen stepped away and walked to the break area, where Max was seated near the vending machine, notebook open, pen in hand. He looked up briefly, then back down. "You're still here," Yalen said. "Yeah. I figured I'd make the most of my second chance." "What did you learn yesterday?" Max didn't answer right away. "I forgot how fast the calls come in, how little time there is to breathe." And I forgot what it feels like to have someone watching over your shoulder, waiting for you to make a mistake. Yalen leaned against the wall. What about the people? They're better than I gave them credit for. Clara coached me through a transfer I would have botched. Didn't even hesitate. You ever thank her? Max looked up. No, but I will. Do it today. You've got a long way to go, but that's where it starts. Max nodded again, slower this time, and stood. By midday, the HR sessions were running smoothly. A couple of employees came out with red eyes but calm expressions. No one looked shaken. No one looked defeated. Dana was tracking the flow, making sure no one felt rushed or watched. At 2 o'clock, a call came in from the central support team in Chicago. They had flagged a pattern in the Westbridge call logs. One of the reps, a man named Owen, had been closing calls in under 2 minutes consistently. At first, it looked impressive. Too impressive, Yalen pulled the recordings. What he heard wasn't just a concern, it was a problem. Owen was ending calls prematurely. Customers barely got through their first sentence before he cut them off with scripted phrases and disconnected. In one call, a woman trying to resolve a billing error was interrupted twice, then told to call back when you have the correct information, even though she clearly did. Yalen walked to Owen's desk. The man was in his late 30s, confident posture, headset tilted lazily. He looked up, saw who was approaching, and sat up straighter. You got a few minutes? Yalen asked. Sure. Yalen gestured toward the side office. Owen followed, adjusting his shirt collar. Once inside, Yalen closed the door and sat. I reviewed 6 of your calls from the past week. Every one of them was under 2 minutes, most ended without resolution. Owen leaned forward slightly. Look, I know that sounds bad, but honestly, I'm just efficient. I've been doing this 10 years. I know when a customer's wasting time. Wasting time? Yeah, some people call in just to vent. I redirect them. Keep the queue moving. Yalen stared at him. You're not paid to decide whose issue matters. You're paid to solve problems. I hit my numbers. You manipulated your numbers. That's different. Owen shrugged. This place was a mess before you showed up. I did what I had to do to survive. Survival isn't an excuse for negligence. You turned away paying customers. You made the company look careless. You're done here. Owen's expression shifted. Wait a second. If this is about training, I can adjust. Let me work under someone else. No. This isn't a coaching issue. This is a pattern. You made a choice. That has consequences. Security was called. Dana handled the exit professionally without spectacle. The floor didn't erupt in gossip. They noticed, of course, but they returned to work. And that was the difference now. People weren't afraid to focus. They didn't have to watch their backs. At 4 o'clock, Yalen gathered the floor team in the common area. No speech, just a conversation. We're rebuilding, he said. Not just policies, culture. I want this place to be better than what I saw when I walked in. That means more listening, more transparency, and more accountability. For everyone, including me. He looked around. No one interrupted. No one looked away. I won't be here every day. But I'm installing new systems so what happened before can't happen again. Anonymous feedback every quarter, rotating peer review panels, and every promotion decision will go through a board, not a single person. Paisley raised her hand. What about openings in other branches? Can we apply to transfer? You'll get first priority. Internal mobility will be open and tracked. No more favoritism. Maddie asked. What happens if someone slips back into old habits? Yalen answered without hesitation. Then we act early and decisively. No more looking the other way. After the meeting, people didn't rush out. They lingered, talked, not just about schedules or calls, but about possibilities. That night, the last person to leave was Delia. She turned off the training room lights and met Yalen near the door. You did what you came to do, she said. Not yet, but we're on the way. You think the other branches are like this? Some worse, some hiding it better. You going in again? He nodded. Next week. You want advice, always. She looked at him, steady as ever. Don't just look for the loud ones. Pay attention to the quiet ones. That's where the truth hides. Yalen watched her walk to the bus stop. He wasn't looking for applause, he was looking for alignment, and finally, at Westbridge, it was starting to show.